Welcome to the Endurance Studio podcast. I'm your host, Dylan Turner. I'm an avid ultra-endurance cyclist, bikepacker, and runner, and I'm on a journey to learn and share everything I can about how people can push beyond their limits. This podcast will explore all aspects of endurance through conversations with people I find unique and interesting. There's always an amazing story of accomplishment and failure, and always something to learn. I run this podcast from an off-grid mobile studio I've created so I can travel to the guests and have authentic, in-person conversations because I believe in the importance and power of face-to-face conversations. Thank you for watching and listening. This episode is brought to you by Squirrel's Nut Butter. They make adventure anti-chafe lube and healthy, organic, restorative skin salve. I don't leave home without it when I go on an adventure. I think it's the best in the business, and I am proud to be an ambassador. So check them out at squirrelsnutbutter.com and use my code ENDURANCE20, all caps, for 20% off. This episode is brought to you by Embark Maple. It's just good energy for endurance sports. We've all been there, the dreaded bonk out on trail. And when that happens to me, I take a swig of this 100% organic and tasty maple syrup, and it brings me back to life. I'm so proud to be an ambassador and have them as a podcast sponsor. So check them out at embarkmaple.com and use my promo code EMBARK20 for 20% off. Today's guest is an entrepreneur, endurance athlete, and visionary behind multiple restaurant ventures in northern Arizona. In this episode, we discuss his journey from a career in geology to founding Pizzicletta, an iconic Flagstaff pizza spot known for its simplicity and quality. His latest restaurant venture, called Sosta, is designed to bring people together over tasty food while allowing folks to take a pause and focus on fostering meaningful connections. In today's conversation, we discuss his unique approach to hospitality, his philosophy on keeping things simple, and how his experiences as a Boy Scout and ultrarunner have shaped his leadership and lifestyles. Get ready for an insightful conversation on food, community, and resilience. I'd like to welcome today to the podcast, Caleb Schiff. Caleb Schiff, thank you. Welcome to the Endurance Studio.
Glad to be here.
I want to break the ice a little bit here, sure. And I Googled the word restaurateur.
Okay.
And there were two spellings, with an N and without an N.
Oh, you're going to test me? Are you going to test me?
I, for my whole life, said it with an N, restaurateur. And I think that's an acceptable spelling.
Yeah.
But there are some hardcore people out there, apparently on the interwebs, that drop the N.
Okay.
And it's like restaurateur. I'd ask Siri how to say it, but do you care about this at all?
It's funny. I don't.
Okay, good.
I have had to use that term, and I think anytime I do it, I probably spell it wrong still.
Yeah.
So, while I think that's practically a lot of what my work is, I don't really think of myself as a restaurateur. I'm sure that's somewhat the image, and it is a lot of the work, but I think since day one, we've always had a pretty non-traditional approach to our restaurants.
Yeah.
And therefore, it's just, I think if I had to put it on a resume, I don't know, I'd probably say business owner before restaurateur.
Yeah.
But it is a lot of the work I do at this point, and that wasn't the infancy of it, and we can probably get into all that evolution. But the work now is what I would say a lot of people consider restaurateur.
Yeah.
Which is managing multiple restaurants, I suppose. Actually, I don't even know what the definition is.
I think it's like a combo of restaurant and entrepreneur.
Yeah.
I think it's
that makes sense.
Yeah. So yeah, speaking of that, Sosta.
Yeah, Sosta.
Right? Is it? Yeah. What does that mean?
Sosta means a moment of pause in Italian. So I think what's more people might be more recognize is siesta, like having taken a siesta. So Sosta, both from the Italian language, basically means a moment of pause. So we came upon this. I can't definitely take all the credit for the name. With my business partner James and I were going back and forth about a lot of names, and he thought that we should probably have something that's phonetically easy to say.
Yeah.
which for the number of times per day I spell Pizzicletta or have to, I don't usually correct people when they say Pizzicletta or Pizzicletta or whatever, because it's just not that important. But Sosta is Sosta, so it's pretty easy pronounced. And I do think it actually gets to our goals with the restaurant, and I think it's a timely name when I think distraction and connecting with people is whether it's you can view it as easy because we have technology, or when it really counts you can view it as really hard. So our goal is to have a place where people can take a pause out of their day and enjoy a connection with others. And we'll probably talk about food today, but I can tell you that in my work I rarely talk about food anymore. I mostly just talk about our people and our goals of connecting people, and it happens to be over food or with food involved, but that's never been like the core of whether it was the origin of the business or like kind of what we do. It's really is about just like connecting people.
Yeah,
food is a great thing for that, of course, but so we've been designing the space really intentionally. We've got some different opt-in things for guests if they want. That I can discuss. And then of course we've got great food. So we'll be doing it's going to be fresh pasta and pizza. So we'll be located in the Old Bricks restaurant, which is a fine dining concept that was around for 19 years, just north of downtown Flagstaff. And I would say we're doing anything but fine dining. I personally don't go to a lot of fine dining, and I think that the concept is just a little too elitist, and it's not very in line with our company. We're about honestly making a lot of carbs and feeding it to a lot of people in a lot of ways, right?
Wonder where that came from.
And yeah, but the fine dining is it's very it's very limiting to who you can serve.
Yeah.
But we have this beautiful building that we are taking over, and it's a historic building. And when I think about its history it was built in 1909, but its most recent history as a restaurant, I want to say maybe 2 to 5% of people in Flagstaff have ever been there. And it's a beautiful building. And it's very close to downtown. It's got parking, so it's got all these qualities that we want to share and create experiences around it. And if we continue to fine dining model, we continue to restrict the number of people just based on price point that can be there. So, we have a core value that we want to offer main dishes. The bulk of your menu is you can offer at the hourly minimum wage of Flagstaff. So right now it's $17.85.
Yeah.
So can we offer a good portion of our main dishes at that price or lower? And the beauty of that is, first off, anyone who works an hour in Flagstaff can come and get dinner. That's seems like a good benchmark. So we are opening from a business standpoint. We open our offering to most people in Flagstaff, the majority, and it's flexible because as the minimum wage increases, which is our biggest expense, labor, we have that room to grow. It basically works together because we do have to raise prices every once in a while, but it should have some why, and when we can link these two, like a minimum wage and a main dish almost together, then we can really expand and the offering, like I said, but also be responsive in a way that's not reactionary. It's just like, we're anticipating this, so we can work it into food cost and things like that. So anyway, our goal is to open this great space and offer value to guests in a way with our menu that I think, at least from a pasta standpoint, really isn't happening in town. I would argue a lot of people are making their own pasta, but price points are in the $20 to $30, and that's just more than we want to charge people and need to charge people. So yeah, that we're excited to open this space, broaden our culinary, offering.
Yeah.
Although, there's not wildly different, I recognize. Pasta is pizza and pasta. Like, actually, pasta is just dough. Like, it just is dough. Like, just like pizza. And whenever you're making pizza, sometimes they call it, oh, that's the pasta before it turns into a pizza.
Yeah.
So, but who doesn't love that? Especially probably people who are watching this. So.
Yeah.
And because you can give a lot of value whenever you have such a simple ingredient base. So simplicity is very at the heart of what we're doing. Even though we're growing as a company, it's like there's still some roots there of like offering simple food.
Yeah. So there was only a couple pasta restaurants that I remember in Flagstaff.
Yep.
Pesto Brothers and Pasto,
Mm-hmm.
right? Those
Yep.
were, and I've been in Flagstaff since 2003 and seen so many restaurants come and go.
Oh, I'm sure.
It's such a tumultuous business. The restaurant business is like notoriously tumultuous, right?
It is.
And it seems like the ones that survive, they like diversify a little bit, or they own multiple locations, or they have a safety net built out somehow.
Mm-hmm.
And you've done that with the multiple different restaurants that you've built out, but you always seem to be the thing that first started this all off, I think, back in 2011 when you started
when we
Pizzicletta,
opened, yeah. Mm-hmm.
was like you seem to be like a risk taker. And maybe lots of strife has come after that, but then the rewards eventually seem to have come because you opened Pizzicletta in like south of the tracks in a location that had nothing there. It was this was like pre-Mother Road or near. Yeah, I don't know, I'm not sure which came first.
Yeah, it was almost synchronous, but
Okay.
Which was just great serendipity and coincidence, I guess. Well, I'd say more than a risk taker, I'm opportunistic.
Okay.
I'd say at times in the past I've been impulsive, but I've honed that in, thankfully. And I didn't realize the opportunistic component of myself and my business probably until more recently when I've had to question like planning and things like that. So, but the origins of it were wanting to build something and create something. I think I had a great job at NAU after I got my master's in geology, and I was managing a lab and on a good like probably tenure track and everything.
Yeah.
And I love to work hard. I value like I often joke, but it's very true that one of my favorite feelings is exhaustion. And what I mean by that, I know that sounds weird, but at the end of the day, I like to feel tired. Like to me, it's just like, oh, like I've done what I can and that feels good. And I don't know where that work ethic, I know my parents have it, but like it's something that I really like. And so as I was a scientist, I kind of recall burning out in a way that I was at work and I had this existential feeling that I no longer wanted to work hard. And it was really scary, honestly. I was like, oh, wow, I don't want to keep doing this. And I would look around at my colleagues who are 20 or 30 years older than me. And I'm like, there's no way I can do this for another 20 or 30 years.
Yeah.
And so, and coincidentally, like a year before, I'd been in Italy, biking around. And so the wheels got turning and I realized how much I enjoyed. So going back to NAU, be working my 9 to 5. This was like 2006 to 2008 to 9, I guess. 2010 is when I left. So I'd put my time in, and then on the weekends I'd be running with friends, of course, and we'd have pizza. I'd make pizza for everyone because I built an oven in my backyard, and I just remember that act of like creating something that was pretty rare at that time. Wood-fired pizza really wasn't a thing like it is now. And the joy of creating something for someone else was pretty, it was pretty addictive in that way. And I just slowly the wheels started turning of like, maybe as scary as it was, maybe I do leave this career track that I've been on now for 8 years at that time, with undergrad, grad school and whatnot. and do something on my own. And that called to me, and it was like one of those things where once it was in my mind, I really couldn't turn away. So, but I had no experience. So this goes back to that restaurateur. I was like, well, I guess I'm a restaurateur, but I don't really know what they do.
Yeah.
I never knew what they did.
I had to look it up too. Don't worry.
And our approach has never been traditional. And
Yeah.
I think that's a strength. We actually, while we do hire people in the industry, it's often best to hire people from outside the industry because they don't come in with some preconceived notion of what we do, and they can offer fresh eyes. And every once in a while it is good to do your homework and to know what you're doing, getting into restaurants and managing and whatnot. But it all so having experience is obviously very valuable. But as long as you can take that experience and not let it drive all your decision making, right? Just to use it as knowledge versus as something that is that could make you blind to other possibilities, I guess.
Yeah.
Yeah.
You seem to be ahead of the curve on simplicity. There's beauty in simplicity.
Yeah, absolutely.
Your menu at Pizzicletta is high quality, simple ingredients, simple menu.
Yeah.
You've sort of taken that template and applied that to Indian Gardens, from what I can tell. It looks like it's a little bit more complicated.
It is more complicated, and it's challenging because of that, I'd say, and harder because of a lot of reasons down there to be profitable at times. But it was it wasn't our original plan, wasn't necessarily the current menu, but yeah, but I'd say what we're doing in Flagstaff is we've kept it very simple, and there's multiple reasons for that. One is I genuinely believe simplicity is the best way to serve Italian food. A lot of food cultures, we could take French food, and French food is delicious, but there's a lot of process, a lot of I guess Mediterranean and Italian cooking is you do as little as you can with the ingredient. You have to get great ingredients, and then you do as little as you can. Whereas other processes or culinary directions can be a little more laborious of process. So you whether it's making a pate or something like that. In French cuisine, you're doing a lot to the ingredients, and it's very delicious, but it's further away from the original, whether protein or vegetable, right? Whereas with Italian cooking, simplicity, less is more there.
Yeah.
Yeah, and then I'd say there's two other reasons. One is my own or lack thereof of culinary skills. I'm not a chef. I'm not a trained chef.
Right.
I learned by trial and error, and so to think about a really broad menu whatever it was 14, 15 years ago was it's already very intimidating to leave a career and go into restaurant industry, where you're, the odds are against you. It's very intimidating. And so to think, so simplicity was important. It's well, no one's doing anything like this in town. To do it well, I just need to do one thing. And I think that was super helpful. And then there's our space, our original space on Phoenix Avenue.
Yeah.
It's 600 square feet. It is, it turned into a strength because I also believe you do your best work whenever you kind of are restricted. When you don't have all the space, when you don't have all the equipment or the money or whatever, I think it just requires you to, I don't know, because of this recent, this whole thing with DeepSeek in China, the AI thing.
Yeah.
I actually think that because they were so restricted by the type of chips they could get and financing, it gave them it allowed them to crack the code of designing AI a tenth of the price of other models because, you restricted them, and they figured it out. Like those are so it's
Yeah.
like there's good things about like, and that's I guess another thing about simplicity is has its strengths in other ways, but
Pressure makes diamonds.
yeah,
Right.
yeah, that's right. Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Yeah, and then I also my friend who was living with me, he's founded and started Diablo Burger.
Oh, okay.
So his name's Derek, and he in 2008, I was one of his first employees, and he showed that you could do one thing. You could do great burgers. You could just do great grass-fed burgers. And I think at that time they also had like nachos on the menu, and I think they even had chicken.
Huh.
It all
I don't
went
remember
away.
those days. Yeah.
I mean, it
That
was like in the
short-lived.
first few months, right? It all went away.
Yeah.
They did. I don't think. Do they still do milkshakes? I'm not sure. They used to do a lot more, and I think what he learned quickly and what I saw, that evolution, but also his goal of like, we're not doing everything. And I think that was a movement in food around that time, and a lot of the inspiration for Pizzicletta is of course from Italy, but I also would travel to San Francisco, New York, and see other people doing simple concepts. And now I'd say more restaurants are simple than not. Like maybe not like obviously not your diners and more established brands like whatever Chili's or whatever, where you are trying to please a lot of people.
Yeah.
But I think some of the best examples of cultish food, even though I don't think we've ever strived for that, just really good brands are doing less.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, I mean, the chain or the corporatization of less is more, right? So
Yeah.
you have Chipotle,
Yep.
Chick-fil-A, Raising Cane's, In-N-Out Burger. These places all just like, they made a business out of like one or two things, simple ingredients, and they're gonna try and source. I'm not drawing a parallel, but I think that model is now really popular, right?
Yeah.
And you're not going to a place that has 15 things on the menu, and like I have to ask, like that had to have been an asset during COVID to only have
Sure.
a limited amount of things you needed to procure.
I mean, it's always been an asset, and I would say like it's it could say it's a risk as a business to do this because you are limiting your population. Like,
Right.
and we can get into other aspects of our menu that limits us in some ways. But, someone here wants pasta, someone here wants pizza, or one person wants a steak. And it's like, well, you're probably going to Red Lobster, or not Red Lobster, but Olive Garden, where you can get all that.
Right.
I mean, if you had to please everyone, right? Because
Right.
I think you could do all that. Like, right? I'm pretty sure. I'm not sure. I'm positive, but I think that menu probably has a steak on it. That's my hunch.
Yeah,
Or
Olive Garden. There's a steak at Olive
Yeah.
Garden. Yeah.
So,
It was the boomer favorite, and I've gone there a
Is
lot
that right?
with
Yeah.
my in-laws.
okay, it's been a minute, but I know. So that's one direction, and that's what I'd say people and a lot of corporations do. But yeah, the upside is you have a broader audience, and the downside is your operations are harder to manage, more expensive, more waste potentially.
Oh yeah.
I mean, big corporations who have been doing it for 10, 20 years, like they got that stuff dialed. They're probably doing all right. But yeah, when it came to COVID, I mean, I think the biggest saving grace was, well, maybe two, I guess, was a strong relationship with our community and pizza. Because pizza is something that can be taken away. And it's very common for people to get a pizza to go. It's not very common to get things like fine dining or, breakfast to go, eggs and toast and everything doesn't travel that well. So we had an advantage because of what we had, and it's not like it was ever had no foresight that COVID was coming or anything like it. So it was just luck. It was just luck that we were serving pizza, and that pizza was is very easy to travel with.
Yeah.
But thankfully it wasn't all luck. I think we did have a really good community behind us, and I think that was true for a lot of local businesses, and that was saved us for sure.
I mean, you got pretty creative during COVID.
Yeah.
Like,
Yeah.
I don't think it definitely luck helped on this, but there were some things you did that I remember. You sold ingredients. You sold like take and bake type pizzas, I think maybe.
We did.
And then you also partnered with Toasted Owl to expand onto their patio, which is a restaurant. For the people that don't know, is a restaurant across the street. They're a breakfast restaurant. They allowed you to use their patio.
That's right.
And you could serve across there. So like, you know, were these like acts of desperation financially, or was this just, were you like ahead of the curve on this during this time?
Well, I think the existential feeling of that, I think everyone had, I'm sure. But from a business standpoint, it was the uncertainty of what was coming. I think, it's like a fight or flight, right? Like, I think, and so we did look at all the options of what is available from the government. What is the government even saying we can do? And that was a shifting target. What is it our people can do? Like, do our employees want to work? Or is there fear? Well, of course there's fear, but like, can we do things that are safe? So it was looking at all these things and just brainstorming, honestly.
Yeah.
I think personally the best project we had was the Pizza in the Pines, which is where we just partnered with Lowell Observatory in the city of Flagstaff to set up picnics and just had it was pretty cool. I think it was, and we still get people asking us to do it because if you think about what people were craving, they wanted to get out of their house. They wanted connection still with loved ones, and they didn't want to cook, but they didn't want to carry out. So how do you do that? And we set up picnic tables and the whole shebang, wine, food, or starters, and it was pretty cool. That was like, I think that was our, that was, but it doesn't make sense. It wouldn't make sense for us to do now. And I say that because the labor involved in that, it takes 2 or 3 employees to go and set up a whole dinner. It takes them 45 minutes and they got to come back and break it down to serve like 4 people. It's like, it doesn't make sense.
Right.
Because you can't leave all that stuff out there necessarily in the woods. And so, but again, this is where like the government fund, like the PPP, like we had money and we needed to pay our employees and we wanted to, but they got wages, but they didn't get tips. So this is a way to like keep people. I actually think probably what people don't see is the efforts during COVID was with our people. Like I feel like that was a huge win because I think it created a lot of goodwill and trust amongst the team that I don't think all businesses were able to hit or to able to achieve, or out of fear just didn't know what to do, and like, which is totally understandable. And we just kind of stood by our people the whole time, looking for options of, if you want to work, we will find work. We'll do cleaning. We restained all of the tables. We just found projects, and rather than and paid people because we had the money, and like either you use it or you lose it kind of thing. So it created more connection, I think, with our people. And then they saw the reactions of people being appreciative of some of the work we were doing, like the Pizza in the Pines or whatnot. So that was actually the thing that probably the public doesn't see, but we see now with our company, which is kind of the people focus. And I would say it's weird probably for guests to hear this, but my most important role is to, I don't think about customers, and it's not that I don't think about them. I just first think about how are we treating our people right, and if we can nail that, like, and if that's my only job, then and I can do it right, then I don't have to worry about anything else, because they'll take care of our guests. Like, they understand that they're there for the guests also, and so my role as the owner now is just to take care of them. And so it's not that I don't think about our customers. Of course I do, especially in designing restaurants, but all the work I do is just with our people. I don't get to cook as much anymore, and I do miss parts of that, but my first thought when I think about the business is like, how do we be a great employer? How do we increase retention? How do we do all these things? Because that's, I think, that's the key to success in this industry, is taking care of your people, and they'll take care of the rest.
That's the key to success in almost any industry.
Probably.
Where do you get all this leadership skills? I mean, is this built into you?
No, definitely not.
Did you take training? Did you, as a young man, did you do leadership?
I mean, I did. I was a scout, Boy Scout, and I think that like set the trajectory of, the fact that I'm in running shoes and shorts and love to be outdoors, and any moment I can, I'm, doing something.
I had you profiled as a soccer player and a track runner and a cross country runner.
So I would actually say I was first like a Boy Scout and, a backpacker, and
nice.
Climbed a little bit, but yeah, I was a scout, and I had, scouting has a mixed reputation, of course.
Yeah.
And it's for good reason, because I think it's actually about not the institution as much about like the troop, so the leaders in that troop, and how that troop is structured in their goals, because I think Boy Scouts in general leaves a lot of flexibility to the leaders of the troop to like create the experience for the boys. And I had a great leader. He was he was a historian, and he knew, like, he studied military people, but also he was an educator, so he's very smart, and he understood that boys just need to be outside and like need to get out their angst, and they need to learn skills and leadership, but it needs to be in a fun environment. So and include adventure. So I got to go to all these mountain places and just be outside so much, and that's what kept me in Scouts, because at that time I was feeling a lot of social anxiety about being a dork or whatever. But I like, once I was there, I loved it. It was just such a good thing. So it got me into geology, which brought me to Arizona, took me to Italy. Like, we could always like project back of why, but I think being, and like I said, it's why we're in Sedona and just went on a run. And like, it makes me, there's a lot of symbiosis between endurance and being a restaurateur,
yeah,
which we can get into. But, being a scout was probably one of the most formative activities for me as a kid.
Yeah.
Yeah, for sure.
That's cool.
Yeah, but I also know that like that's not everyone's experience, and it just goes back to, I think that the leaders and how do they approach scouting, and instilling, values of respect and all these things that people think of scouting as, but are can be shrouded in like merit badges and like, I don't know, things that you do learn but aren't the core of what I think a great scouting experience is, which is like, it is about, growing up and I'd say through effort, like learning what it is to like be a good person. And obviously there's a lot of goodwill that as a scout you do, whether that's projects or just community outreach and being a good human. But those things are, and they're taught, but it has to be like in a fun and active environment where you're in uncomfortable situations, I'd say at times, camping and whatnot, but you find camaraderie within that, and you have struggles to like set up in the rain or backpack miles and like have these things that like a lot of kids, I'd say, probably don't have nowadays, or didn't even when I was a kid, of course. And then you get to the top of a mountain and you're just like, wow, it's all been worth it. So I'm sure a lot of people can relate to it here, but that was pretty informative, and I see it in a lot of my life of how that has been a very strong and positive thing for myself as an adult.
Yeah. You seem to exude that leadership, but also like empathy. There's like empathy. I get a lot of, but also like decisive empathy, and like, I'm a manager in my day job, and like I've spent a lot of time doing like leadership training and stuff, and it's like an ever changing thing, right? Sure. As you grow as a person.
Yes.
And then to have like, I guess the word emotional intelligence, right? To treat situations differently depending on all the factors in individual situations. So like, but to get to a little bit of the logistics,
yep.
Like, how do you deal with like staffing. Just, I mean, the particular nature of Flagstaff is interesting because you have like a tourist season, right? In the summer, and all the students leave in the summer. And I'm assuming you employ a lot of students from the university, like at your baseline.
Yes and no.
Okay.
But, so we do have, the amplitude of seasonality in Flagstaff is very strong. So it's like, not just summer and winter. It's like summer, winter. Although lately, like fall's been our strongest season since COVID. But, but I would say as a business owner, you can't look at it like that for people.
Yeah.
Because, and what this means is like less profitability in the winter because we don't fire people when business slows down. We develop systems that have that where you kind of spread the pain a bit, and that pain goes to the business because there's many months that we're not profitable, and it's okay. Like, because what you get on the backside of that is respect and like trust from your team because, oh yeah, it's slowed down and I maybe got a shift cut a week or one every 2 weeks, but they're not firing people, and they know how slow it is. Like, it's crickets sometimes, right? Even for us, which is we're well known, but it's still Flagstaff. It's still not a big city.
Yeah.
So the flip side of that is retention, and I mean, all of our managers have been with us for about 5 years. I've got. And I'd say the rest of our employee base is, obviously we have new employees where it's within the last year, but we did an analysis with my HR person, Janessa, and it was really rough, and I want to do it a little better, but our average retention is like around 800 days. And that's, I think the average in the industry is like 90.
Yeah.
So it's 3 months.
Oh my God.
We
So
feel
impressive.
really good
Yeah.
about, and I would say that is our biggest strength is when I think about 2024 was a really good year for us, and I was like, well, why was that? And because we definitely had our challenges, and there's definitely a lot of curveballs that was thrown at us at the beginning of the year. We opened a commissary kitchen. There's a lot of reasons that like we had a lot of moving parts. We grew our catering and whatnot, but I think the fundamental thing that made it really work and not seem really painful was that everyone had been there for a long time. Like, not everyone, but like all of our top management had, and all those people are still with us. And they know what they're doing. They know our values and they uphold them, right? So the longer I think a person can be in a company, obviously, it can, they could become stagnant. They could view work as, I want to say boring, but like not challenging them.
Yeah.
And so because we're a growing company, there's nearly always opportunity to move up. Maybe it's not immediately. Obviously we just opened this restaurant, so we got to promote a lot of people. And for the first time ever, we hired a manager from outside the company. And it wasn't so much that we didn't have someone within the company. Opening a new concept, which especially with how many seats we have, like we need to make sure that we're not rocking the boat and destabilizing the other locations. So we didn't pull a manager who was ready for the position, but we know that she's like gonna be moving up. So there's good reasons to promote from within, and then we found that like this time around we're not going to promote everyone from within, but nonetheless we find opportunities to push people. We create new opportunities, whether it's like we're gonna be at around 100 employees soon, and so we have one thing we implemented this last year was created a whole new position in the company, which is just HR, which is basically in development. So that was a brand new position, and it was hired from within, and it was really driven by the staff and the interest in the position and the need for it. So, and I think that's just going to add layers of strength to our goals of being a great place to work, and thus like have good retention. So, like the I think managing it's not my strength, honestly. And so whenever those situations, or I would say, whenever I find things that aren't my strength, then I will study them. I did have gone to management classes and everything like that, but it's identifying your weaknesses. And if you can't figure them out yourself, you delegate, you hire for them, and you find people who are passionate about that, and you just let it go. So like, I mean, you let that responsibility go to someone who's more capable. And I think it took us a while. We struggled at times with like probably 15 to 19 with really rapid growth with Mother Road. I'd say we struggled with our middle management and retention. And I think it was just not structuring it correctly and getting in our own way. Like, I think not giving our managers more autonomy to grow. And we were still one location and, scared about the extra cost of all this management and things like that. So hindsight's 2020, but I think that was a rough time for us actually, because we were still figuring out how to do all this.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I want to ask about the design components of the different locations. Mm-hmm. So I did read the new Sosta location that it's going to have, since it's like an old historic building, it's going to have like micro environments or nooks. And so you can come in and sit in a different spot and have a different experience. So like, is this like something that you walked through the building and you thought that popped into your head and you started to develop that concept, or something you wanted?
Yes and no. Part of it is just the building. There are these little kind of so it's a big building. With all the patio seating, it's like 180 seats. And when we open in March, we'll have about 90 seats.
Wow.
And that's actually
so much bigger than Pizzicletta.
It is. Yeah. Which is scary, but exciting.
Wow.
So I think going back to this idea of Sosta, of taking a pause, of our goals of like connecting people and having great shared experiences around food. Like, that's what we're aiming at. And so our goal when we design places is to set up the architecture for that, to basically set the scene, right? And it's not a trivial thing. And so I would say, and I'm not going to like beat up bricks at all, but I did go there after the renovations in 2022, and it just felt cold. It felt like this, and I got engaged there in 2021. So I'd been going there for a while. 2021, yeah, that's when we got engaged. But that was before the expansion, and so they added about 980 seats maybe from in 2022, and when they expanded it, they went into the carriage house, this really, really beautiful historic space, but it was still just like very open, and it just didn't feel very warm. And so what we saw, or what I experienced and what other people experienced in that space, was that it was a little too spacious, had that kind of sterile feeling, didn't feel like it was a place that I could connect with people, because like there's tables all around you. So it wasn't very intimate, which is, was a problem for a fine dining concept, to be clear. And I think that was one of the reasons they moved on. But we're inviting people back into this space, at least those that have been there. So we recognized pretty early that things need to change pretty drastically. But we still have this really big space. And so we've been working intentionally to literally take big rooms and make them smaller rooms. That doesn't mean big walls. It just means color. It means materials. It means different types of tables, different types of seating, and creating more intimacy. But then creating other spaces. So we're going to have a really cool communal table. We'll probably have 2 of them, kind of like we do at Pizzi. And so there's opportunities, but that communal table it's going to be in this inner room, but you're going to be on bar stools. You're not going to be low, because it's weird to have a meal and have people walking around you if you're sitting low, right? So we just had to think about, well, what would be the experience if I sat here and I was having a meal or I was trying to have a conversation, and I recognize that Pizzicletta is like very challenging to a lot of people because it's so small. Some people love that and some people absolutely hate it, and I get it, and that's just, we had to do it because I fell in love with that space, and that was the best design I think we came up with, and I think it's still, and it was community. Like, that communal table has lots of great memories around it, and I have no regrets about it. But we have the opportunity to have that and to like create the intimate spots. So it will be a mix of, we'll have some large tables, and there's some nooks where like a whole family can just be there, and they will not even realize sometimes they're in a restaurant. And it was my hope, because it's not completely like closed off, but it would just be them and the server. And so if you can think about that experience in a restaurant, you don't have that too often. Usually there's tables all around you and a lot going on. So those are some of the experiences that we're trying to create there, and the design. And so there's a lot of changes we're making. We've changed the entrance of the front door, and so you come into what was the original bricks, but there's actually not going to be any seating in there. So we ripped out the bar, and it's just going to be a nice warm place to like sit and wait for a table if there's a wait. And then you would enter into the larger carriage house, and there's going to be like a transition there where you're in one space with a lot of people, and then you're in a dining area, and you're in your own area. So it's like this expansiveness, but into something more intimate. And then we've got we've got another idea, or we have all the pieces that just got to get installed for optional phone locker. So
okay,
I have my phone in my pocket right now, and it's kind of buzzing because people were texting me, and I'll admit it's a little distracting.
Yeah.
Right. I mean, who doesn't have this experience in life? Or let's say you're at the dinner table with your family, and I'm sure a lot of families have no phones at the dinner table policy. And why? Because like you can't connect with people as much whenever. I mean, this is, and if you think about, again, Sosta, like a moment of pause, like it can be a physical moment of pause, of course, but how about a moment of like pause from your phone? So we'll have this old UPS locker with keys, and it'll be in the entrance space. So you enter this, and it's gonna be really beautiful. We got some new lighting. It's gonna be nice and cozy, and it'll also be where we have our coffee bar and pastries for when we expand to cafe hours. But anyway, in that room will also be 30, like, you've seen, like, go into the post office and you see all the lockers of keys, or actually they have codes. So we had to track something down. This one has keys. It is completely optional, but if you choose, you can leave your phone in there. And it's like, oh, well, I can just put my phone in my purse or my pocket. And it's like, no. Like, there's a good saying, the guy who wrote Atomic Habits, he said, you don't rise to your goals, you fall to your systems. So let's say I have a goal. I'm not going to pull my phone out during dinner with my wife. Great. That's your goal as you walk into the restaurant. Awesome. Now, what's your system for that? I put it in my pocket. That is a poor system. It's a horrible system.
It's engineered around making sure it's going off when it's in your pocket. I mean, the designer's on the phone.
A better goal or a better system would be to leave in your car.
Yep.
That's one. But
right.
But maybe you have to pay your phone or whatever. I don't know. Or so another system, the restaurant can provide a system. We're providing a system. The system is a small locker. Like, it's got 30 panels. I hope it's not enough. I hope 30 panels is not enough. Obviously, at one person or one table could put all their phones in one, where, you just stick your phone in, you take the key, take it to the table, and, I'm sure we'll have some issues where people lost the key and I don't know what to pick the lock. Like, I just, the concept is worth it to me to take those risks of figuring this out, because I know from my experience of if I leave my phone in the car or I leave it upstairs, and it's just a better time connecting with my wife or whomever. Like, the phones are so distracting.
Yeah.
So rather than, expect people to like have their own system, and you know, maybe people don't have this issue in their life, which is totally fine. And or they need their phone because it's a babysitter or whatever. That's totally fine. We're not mandating this at all. But if you would want some help, which I think we also need some help in this area, like we've got a system for you.
Yeah.
You know, just lock it up, and you know, if you need it to pay the bill, we'll go grab it for you, right? Just give us the key, we'll grab it for you, whatever. Or you know, we can help with this, but yeah, so that's going to be in a whole separate room. So you imagine come in this space and, you know, you're greeted and it's warm, and you know, like when I say warm, like actual temperature, but also like the vibes, and you leave all your troubles in one room and you get to go in another one, and like that's you get to have your Sosta. So that is kind of some of the ideas, just touching on them amongst others. And again, I haven't talked about the food that much, so like it's about the experience.
Yeah.
I'm confident of the food that we're gonna be doing, but it is very much about creating a space for people to like just enjoy. And I think Flagstaff is ripe for that. I think our country where we're at is ripe for it. I just think that people want to just not think about the news or whatever, and just like be present. So
They're doing it in comedy clubs.
Oh yeah,
with the Yonder bags, where have you heard of these?
No.
They're like they're a bag that you get and you put your phone in, and it has a lock on it. It's mandatory in some comedy shows, and you keep your phone with you, but you can't get to it. It's in this like bag thingy that you can't access it, right? And then they unlock it on the way out, right?
Yeah.
Because they're so intrusive, right? In this particular, so some comedy club owners are mandating these Yonder bags.
That's awesome.
So,
I mean, I think that, you know, I don't think we're, you know, just to the whole idea that this place under as Bricks was not purposefully, well, it was more exclusionary than I want my business ever to be.
Yeah.
And and it's just the concept was because of the price point, like, right? Like there's just like so few people can afford a $40 entree, right? And so by choice or by design of a menu, you are excluding a lot of the population. And if I took that approach with our phones, I feel like it's exclusionary in a way that like isn't like I just want it to be optional. I don't want to force people into this. I want people to appreciate it, but not feel like required, because no one wants to be told what to do, and no one wants to be like, you know, and I don't want to be people's parents.
yeah, no, definitely good call, not mandating it, but it almost creates this like voluntary experience. Like you know how much of a experience it's going to create for someone, for lack of a better term, when for the first time they separate themselves from their phone for even like an hour or two. You know how rare that is for people? Like when you forget your phone somewhere, you start to most people start to panic.
Yeah.
I don't know, you could have more discipline than that, but like these things are designed to be so intrusive in our lives, right? And to like every little update that's made on a phone, putting the payment on the phone and putting all, not like social media aside, right? All the other stuff, the weather and whatever, it all is designed to keep you in it, right? And so like it's almost like a novelty to not have it.
I think so. I mean, when I thought of this idea, I felt so strongly about it that I spent hours and hours thinking and ideating on it and coming up and then at one point I was like, oh, it'll be like a courtesy, like a coat check, like
right. Valet for your phone.
Well, yeah, but and our employees would be a part of it, but I got a lot of pushback of like, you don't want that liability. I'm like, you're actually right. I don't want that liability. And because if we would lose a phone or, you know, whatever, it just like, who knows what could come of that. So I think, but then if you think about it, it's like, I'm like, as a customer, I'm literally locking it myself. Like, I think there's something about that act of giving it the power to the customer is going to be like, I think it could bring people together. Just like, hey, let's do this. Like, I don't know. I mean, bring a couple together, a family of like, we made this decision together. We're putting our phones in here together, and you know, I'm hopeful that people will find great value in this, and it won't just be some kind of funny farcical thing that's on the wall and never used. I think that but I'm sticking with my intuition on this, that I think it will be greatly appreciated, and it's optional. So if it's not, it's fine. Spent a little bit of money on this thing and the idea, but I can tell you, I'll put my phone in there.
Yeah. Yeah.
I know I will. Like, because and again, it's just about like, I would imagine anyone in a relationship or with kids has a goal of having less phone time when you're together. But, goals are great. Like, it's good to have goals. If you don't have a system behind your goal, you're never going to achieve it. Yeah. So it's just like we're providing the system, and it's simple, it's elegant, and it's like, and hopefully it works.
A bunch of people are going to have mini crises when they realize how addicted they are.
Yeah, and good. I don't know. It's
I
just
agree.
Like, it's
I
like,
agree.
Yeah, we all
look, man. I go bike packing
Uh-huh.
Intentionally, so I can, like, one of the side effects of bike packing, among all the other things, is I can go out for a couple days and I really just have my phone on airplane mode for like 2 or 3 days, right? Yep. And some of these places I go to, there's no cell phone service, right? Mm-hmm. So even better, right? And now that like SOS mode has kind of infiltrated phones, and there's like deals with T-Mobile and Starlink, so you're going to be able to have cell phone access anywhere you go. At any time. I'm kind of sad, right? Because this was like a vacation from the phone and the thing, and really, like, for bike packing, it's like you want to save as much battery as possible. Like for me, it's like it's a backup navigation tool, so like you want to save it. It's a safety tool in case you do have an issue and your spot tracker fails or whatever. You have another way to like extract yourself in a dangerous situation, right? So you save the battery. You don't like you're not like bike pack racing and like checking your phone every 5 seconds. It just doesn't work together, right? And that's part of why I like have gravitated towards it over the years, right? Same with like running, I guess, ultra running. You have to be like, the beauty of these sports, and you're like you're a prolific ultra runner. You have a pretty incredible race resume. And so I hope you can talk on this, but like one of the things for me is like you have to engage in this one thing for a very, very long time.
Yes.
And there's like such beauty in that simplicity, right?
Absolutely.
And so like there seems to be all these parallels between, like, I don't know, are there parallels for you between like the simplicity of the design of your businesses and the simplicity of ultra events, biking and running?
Absolutely. I couldn't do one without the other. Or I could probably run. I could do the running without the business per se, but it definitely feeds on each other. I could definitely not do the business without the running.
Yeah.
So, big picture, I feel like my daily practice of getting out, or weekend practice of doing really long runs, it just makes everything so much easier.
Totally.
For me, it just like it makes these work decisions, the work stress, like it's not challenging in a way that it's different, of course, but I just know I can do it. It gives you confidence to achieve other big hairy goals, right? And this year is like I've got 2 of those. One is opening Sosta and getting it functioning, and the other is UTMB, right? So
okay,
like those are some big hairy goals, and I'm actually glad that they're in the same year, because it keeps me very focused and wanting to do the work and seeing the need to do the work with timelines or deadlines. But yeah, there's a lot of it's just, I would say, I mean, the two maybe big similarities is entrepreneurship and ultra running are optional things. What I mean by that is, like, I don't have to open a restaurant, and I don't have to run UTMB. I don't have to do these things. I choose to do these things. And I think that is a huge gift that I have in my life, is optionality, or the choice to do things in a way that don't feel like I get to do the things I want to do. but by making that, like, you make a big commitment, and it's all on you. Like, and I don't say it's all on you, but like, I have to follow through with these big hairy goals. Like, there's no escaping that. Like, after you sign the lease, or, you know, I could easily not run UTMB even though I've signed up, but like, not really.
Nobody's gonna listen to you when you complain.
Yeah, which is fine. And and
because it was you, man.
that's right. That's right. Like, these are things that are truly optional in my life.
Yeah.
But I'm signing up to do, and you know, that's just true for any race, for anyone. And why do any of us do this? And or just like going on your bike for, you know, a long bike ride. Like, you don't have to do that. Like, you know, maybe, like, yeah, you don't have to. There's no one is forcing people to do that. As far as I know, I don't think there's any forced exercise in
Well,
our
some
country.
of us are full addicts, okay, and
Well,
so there's another
No,
layer
and
to it.
I get that, and I'm in that camp too. But there's a good reason behind that, and that's like, you see all of the good things, and
Right.
And yeah, I'll be the first to admit that if I don't get my, you know, bout of endurance in, whether it's on the weekend or in the mornings, I'm not as cheery, right?
Yeah.
Like, I can be a little grumpy. And thankfully the people who are really close to me in life understand that, and so they know that it's like, for Caleb to be the best person he can be, he probably needs to go and run 20 miles or something like that, right?
Yeah.
And I usually am much happier afterwards. But again, that's not like, if the benefits on the backside are worth it, then like they see it too, and they're like, oh yeah, you should totally do that. And so, you know, that's the first like comparison, or I'd say similarity between the two. I think the other thing is just the work, man. Like, anyone who trains a lot, like, it's time on feet. It's just time. It's time and hard work. It's effort. And you can't be in the restaurant industry and not experience that. It's just massive amounts of stress and physical work. And thankfully I like those things. I find when I'm too complacent, I'm not nearly as driven. So I think that is another comparison of like, it is not a desk job, restaurants. Just like, you know, I would say doing long endurance events is not like going to the gym. Those are very different things. You commit lots of time to these efforts. They, you know, they can consume you to some degree. It becomes more of a lifestyle, I would say, than other careers, and just like running can become, or endurance can become more of a lifestyle, and you start to develop your habits around that, and your actions around that. So it's not and a lot of people, that's not for them, and that's totally fine. But just like restaurants is not for everyone, and I would not advise everyone. But so there's like a level of commitment to the work, I think, that both require, just to finish, or just to get the doors open. Like, there's a level that you can't half-ass it. And you know, you might be able to half-ass your training to a 100-mile bike race, or you know, an ultra run, but it is gonna suck. Right? Like, I mean, you know, if you don't put the time in, like, you're probably not long for the experience or the sport, because it just will beat you up and mentally beat you up. So
Right.
I think those are some similarities.
You've done a really interesting thing. Your advertising strategy is non-existent. It's all word of mouth. You've done these. So I read like an early article that your original concept for Pizzicletta for advertising was like take bike parts and like paint them uniquely or create them uniquely, and you would use those as coupons, right? And that's kind of evolved into all these community-driven cross. The marketing speak would be like cross promotion or like earned media for it. That's like the marketing terms, but really it's like intertwining an athletic achievement of some sort with the, what is it, the Giro d'Eldon?
Yeah, the Giro d'Eldon.
Giro d'Eldon, where folks, for the people that aren't local, Can you explain that one and
Yeah.
then also the snowball one?
For sure. Yeah. So, in my original business plan that I wrote in 2010, I did not have a marketing budget, and I didn't do that and I still don't have one, other than like a spot on public radio and maybe, purchasing these little wood tokens. But the reason is like, I rarely go somewhere because of a billboard or an advertisement. I mean, I won't say I never do. Of course, I am influenced by some of that, but I would much rather go somewhere from a recommendations from a human, right? And that I trust, or that's been vetted. Like nowadays, even Google, right? Google or Yelp. Like there's a mass of people who have spoke about a business versus a company who is paying to advertise. Like there's no sign that it's going to be good in that sign or in that advertising. Like, how am I supposed to know? They just, I mean, the fact that you're doing it is worrisome, because like, well, you don't have a customer base, so you got to advertise. Like, why don't you have a customer base? Anyway, so I didn't have a budget because I just didn't think that was the way to advertise something, especially a kind of local restaurant. I would want locals to talk about it. But the other thing, when I first opened Pizzicletta, like, it was dinner only, and I did that for a couple of reasons. It was pizza, and I also, though, I was protecting my time. I was like, I still want to run in the mornings, and I don't want this to like wreck my love for other things, specifically being out on the trails in Flagstaff, because it seemed counterintuitive that I named the place because of a bike tour in Italy, and if I no longer got to bike tour, ride on my bike, or be in the woods, like, why am I doing this? Kind of thing. So, I was trying to weave in not athleticism or anything like that, just like being outside, and not like necessarily earning a pizza, but like there's no doubt that there's a link between the amount you exercise and the amount you want to eat typically, and pizza is like a great food all around, very complete meal in my opinion, but also very much so for athletes. So yeah, it began as that, and I didn't do a lot of it as I wanted to initially, but within a couple years, we started actually with the Tour de Snowball, which was the analogous thing to the Giro de Eldon. So it was on Snowball Road, where we biked up Snowball, and anyone who joined us got a free pizza. And it was just like guerrilla marketing. Like, let's just, like, I think it actually worked out where James and I think it was 2012 or 13 was the first year for that. And not surprisingly, I was like, it was the depths of summer. We're working our butt off, and I was like, I need to get outside more, like, because I'm just working. So I presented a challenge to him. I said, hey, let's bike up Snowball every day of the Tour de France, 21 days. It's like, he was a big cyclist. He's bike toured through France, so he's like, and he's immediately like, I'm in, absolutely, like, no doubt, like, didn't even hesitate. So I think it was day 2. We were up there, and just taking a rest at the top, and 2 people who had been in the restaurant regularly, a couple, they got to the top, and we were like, oh, hey, what's going on? And, like, recognized them, and like, why don't you come in for a free pizza, and just to like say, hey, nice job. And then we started thinking, we're like, what if we invited everyone up? And thinking that maybe, like, a few people every day would come, but maybe a good way to market. So, and then I was like, oh, but this really aligns with like that original business plan. So yeah, we did that for 4 or 5 years, and it grew into like, 50, 60 people a day. And then as we got busier and busier, it's a hard thing to commit that much time to Snowball, because it's just a little further away. It's not that far outside of town, but to bike up and down Snowball is a 3-hour commitment, or you can get up and down Eldon in an hour and a half.
Yeah.
So, and I'm the one still doing it all, and I'm showing up every day. So I'm just like, my time is pretty limited. So let's just do Eldon, and it's more accessible to people. There's hiking and running more than running up the road is not fun. There's only one trail up Snowball, so it's just was more egalitarian, and like, everyone can do this. I mean, not everyone. Let me recognize that, like, not everyone can hike or bike, whether disabilities or fitness, up there. So I recognize that it's not actually as we can't offer it to everyone, and that's just part of it right now. So yeah, this will be our 10th year of the Giro d'Eldon. So I didn't really during the Giro d'Italia, which is a stage race in Italy in May. I think it starts May 9th. I actually looked it up last night, and it goes to June 1st this year, where every day that the race is happening, there's 2 rest days in that race. So every day but rest days will be topping out on Snowball. Or not Snowball, but Eldon at the East Towers at 8 a.m. And if you join us, we're doing things a little different this year, and actually it's in this effort. And I hope everyone's not going to be upset about this one. I hope people understand. Okay. But last year it was definitely a record year. Gave out a lot of pizza, and that's fine. But it is actually pretty can be hard on our team at times. So for a couple of reasons, we want to kind of spread out the pizza love. So we're giving out some golden tickets still, but they are going to be for like half off of pizza for anyone who comes up. Yeah. And for everyone we give away in probably early June, we're going to be doing pop-ups at local shelters to give away that many pizzas to other people. So, it's awesome. I love being up there with the community, but I also recognize that if we're going to give pizza away, I just feel like it should be a little more at need population. Yeah. Everyone up there is obviously fit enough to get up there, and they're doing probably pretty good. I don't want to take away like the value and how appreciative people are, because they really have been. But we just need to find a balance as this grows. It's like, and I think that's a good balance to like offer this coupon and offer a really good discount, and get to like say like, well, you're actually giving a pizza to someone else. And that feels like more in the spirit of our town, but also I feel like it's something that we can grow, because taking our mobile operation to a shelter, and that's like really a lot easier on our team. But our team in May just gets destroyed because all these people are coming in for a pizza. And yeah, it's cool. And obviously they'll still be coming, but we'll extend like the time horizon that you can use that discount, so it doesn't get so compressed on our team. And then we get to do a nice event for the broader community that's not at the top, that are people probably, for whether it's so people at the shelter don't have to cook that day or whatever, like, because they are always making meals every day for people, but the people who are coming, who are in need, get to try something different. And then whenever we do events like this for the shelter, they're deeply appreciative, because they're there every day cooking, and they get to take a break. So that's kind of our goal this year, is to, obviously we'll be up there, but to like format it a little differently. And it feels good. It feels like it's a good balance of still getting to continue to do this and incentivize people, but make it more sustainable. Yeah. So, but yeah, that's the Giro d'Eldon. So it's going to be, starts May 9th, and I'll be up there every day. It's going to be my big bulk training for UTMB, trying to do like doubles and triples every day or something like that. Yeah. So Pinions and Pines must have to contribute to a little bit to your May madness. Sorry, but bit. Thank you for continuing to be a part of that. And honestly, that if it wasn't the same time period, we'd probably be able to be a little more generous with it. Yeah, no, it's generous enough. I mean, dude, like I actually switched from the my favorite pizza was the Amori. Yeah. Forever. And then after last Pinions and Pines, I had a Diavola. Yeah. And I'm like full sold crossed over. Like, it's one of our newer ones, actually. It like hit the dopamine, like dude riding 300 whatever miles, and then having that as your first non-gas station food. Yeah. Yeah, I eat a lot of pizza too. So my wife's favorite pizza is Diavola, but with instead of pepperoni, our spicy sun-dried tomato. Okay. And yeah, it's a good pizza. We had a pepperoni, but it was kind of off the menu, because when we first opened, we were really traditional, and pepperoni, surprise, isn't actually a traditional Italian ingredient. But like, we've moved on from that strictness. Anyway, it was kind of off the menu pizza, and I was like, this is crazy, guys. We just got to put a pepperoni pizza on the menu, and it is easily our best seller. So, I'd say, that's just probably business lesson, is to listen to your customers. But like Dogma, it only goes so far. Like,
Yeah.
I think we keep the simplicity of our menu, and we've stuck to that, and I think that's a really strong business principle. But like, we shouldn't do things that are when people are really asking for them. And of course, there's a point there where, like, we get asked almost weekly to open a place in Phoenix, and I'm not sure I'm ready to do that yet. But
Yeah.
but this is one thing that was relatively easy, and it's now become the bestseller.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's funny, man. I was researching for this conversation. I went down a little bit of a rabbit hole about the Neapolitan pizza dough.
Oh yeah.
And I was hoping you could maybe like corroborate. This is from Wikipedia, so you can either corroborate it or let me know if you've kind of gone off the radar on this one. So there's the Associazione. I'm gonna butcher a bunch of Italian here. Associazione Verace Pizza Napolitana.
Yeah.
The AVPN. It's like a governing organizing body that oversees official Neapolitan pizza dough. Do you
Yeah.
know of this?
I know of it, but we're not a part of it.
Okay,
And
okay.
I can go into the why, but yeah.
Okay. Well, look, real quick. So, I mean, they like specifically call out very specific
Yeah.
things on these pizza dough. I just want to go over it real quick. The genuine, it consists of wheat flour, natural Neapolitan yeast or brewer's yeast, salt, and water. The dough is always fat-free and sugar-free. The regulations specify that the dough must be made primarily from medium strength, W value of 250 to 320. Do you know what W value means? I have no idea.
W value.
Yeah.
I actually don't think I know.
11 to 13.5% protein.
Uh-huh.
I don't know. It's like I could keep going, but it's very specific.
Yeah.
Like, how much did you incorporate any of this stuff in the original
Yeah.
ingredients?
Well, so VPN is, in a lot of pizzerias have VPN status, and
Verace Pizza Napolitana. Okay.
we can go back to that marketing thing. I just think it's kind of gimmicky in a way that I think is somewhat anti-Italian. And so let me dig into that. Well, I didn't go to culinary school, and contrary to what a lot of people think, I didn't learn how to make pizza in Italy. I've just eaten a lot of pizza in Italy, and I've had really great VPN pizza in Italy. I've had really bad VPN pizza in Italy.
Yeah.
Now, I feel that I think the proof's in the pudding, and that's what matters. Like, what I mean by that is it good pizza or not? And most pizza's good pizza, but you can, the fact that I just said you can have bad VPN pizza, which is very true. It just means that it's kind of hollow, and it's a bit of a racket, because I just feel like you have to pay money. You have to pay like $500 a year to be a VPN, and it's like, what? Like, I don't want to be told how to make the pizza I want to make.
Yeah.
It's not my pizza anymore. So what I didn't hear, I don't know, we're all naturally leavened, so we don't use any commercial yeast. I'm not sure they allow that. I think, if you want to have, you have to have also, I think you have to have a burrata flown in from Italy. You have to have Italian burrata option, or no, to be DOP. There's some things about it that I just don't think we need, and I feel like it's a bit of a marketing racket.
Totally.
And I'm not gonna say any names, but the VPN guy who certifies pizzerias in Arizona was in town, and he came in, and he said, "Hey, I just gave this other person VPN. Don't ever apply. You don't need to." He said, I'm dead serious. He said, "Don't waste your money." He's like, "You're fine. Don't do it." And I'm like, not that I was ever going to, but that was from the VPN guy. He's like, yeah, I'm here in town. I just want to introduce myself. I give the credentials, or I test it. He's like, "Don't ever do it."
Oh, that's hilarious, dude.
So I was like, that was my instinct, but thank you.
That's hilarious.
Yeah. But, the truth is, there's nothing evil or anything about it. They are just trying to, make sure that if you're calling it Neapolitan pizza, it's made in a quality way. And that has merit for sure. But it starts to get restrictive, and, a lot of trade organizations, it doesn't solve all the quality issues, right? I mean,
Yeah.
their plumbers are and electricians are trade groups, and there's bad plumbers and electricians,
Right.
So
Right.
it's just but they still have to pay their fee to be a trade. I don't know. To me, it's a bit of a racket, and I don't. It's not like the $500 is a lot of money, but I just don't. And it could bring some people in, but I don't want to necessarily have to go by some rules of how they want me to make their pizza or our pizza.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
yeah.
Great. Yeah. I did have the last Neapolitana or Neapolitan pizza.
Yeah.
Neapolitan pizza that I had, I think, was in New Haven, Connecticut.
Oh,
it was
yeah.
Frank Pepe.
Yeah.
And it wasn't that good. Just have to
Supposedly
say.
I've never been, but they're clam pizza.
Yeah, that's what I had.
It's supposed to be like one of the best. But
I don't know, dude.
Yeah.
Like it was like
they've been around for a long time too.
110 years or something.
Yeah,
It was like
that's crazy.
1925.
Wow, I didn't know it was that long.
Yeah. It was like, it was 90 years or something. This was a decade or so
Okay.
ago. Yeah, this was a while back. But yeah, and I had the clam pizza because I was like, I'm going to get a clam pizza. You don't have any seafood, right?
No,
that's,
I mean-
yeah, that seems like it's challenging.
In Arizona for sure.
In Flagstaff, yeah. Yeah.
No, we keep things really simple.
Yeah.
I think also with seafood and commercial kitchens, like there's more safety concerns. And we, at Pizzicletta, we have one heat source. It's our oven.
Right.
And so, like, if you got to cook something, you got to cook it in that oven. I mean, we have expanded to our commissary kitchen and other things, but like, when we first opened, we had two heat sources: an induction burner and the oven, and those were our tools. So it was super rustic, super simple, and that's how it had to be. And again, I think that required us to not have things like, I mean, it prevented us, I should say, from adding things like seafood, and that's a good thing. I think, like, we could have started to expand the menu to where there's a lot of food waste, or just like the offering is too broad and not as appreciated, actually, just because of its broadness. At Sosta, we're going to be able to flex that a little bit, but not drastically. Like, it will still be a pretty tight menu.
Yeah. That's your sweet spot,
Yeah.
man.
Yeah.
keep leaning into that.
Yeah, for sure.
What works, So let's talk a little bit about, I mean, this podcast is not exclusively about endurance stuff, but like, maybe for a few minutes we could talk about, UTMB. So like, what's your training? Like, I mean, look, you have just really quick, I'm going to go over, you did the 2016 Trans Rockies 120 miler, second place.
Yes.
I mean,
in 2015 I ran it too, but it was with a friend, Sarah Wagner, who you might know from.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, but that probably isn't on there. But I won that year, so that's the only reason.
Oh,
but
the 15?
2016 was it was Tommy Rivs and I were in first and second, and I feel like he was just like playing with me because he would like let me win a stage, and then he would just crush me. And I'm just like, anyway, he was a great friend then, and is still a really dear friend. But at that time, it was pure competition with someone who's way fitter than me. So that was a hard year, 2016.
Yeah. 17, it looks like these are some notable. This isn't everything, but notable. Mogollon Monster, you won the 100K.
That's right. Yeah.
Which is like. That thing just kind of lives in lore, I think.
Yeah, I don't know if they do the 100K anymore. I think it's just a 100-miler now.
Okay.
It was hard. It was my first 100K, I think. But it was really good memories with my now wife. She was crewing me with my good friend Dustin, who's a big cyclist, Dustin Phillips.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, he paced me the last, 20 miles or something. But
yeah,
that was fun. It was a pretty small race, but I do remember trying to eat some pizza, and I could not keep it down right after at the, what's it called, that pizzeria in Pine? Old County Inn.
Yeah.
I got some old stories about Old County Inn too. Yeah, that was a good race.
I think you did it again maybe the next year and maybe scratched.
I did scratch.
Was it like a weather year or?
What happened? I had some digestive issues, I think.
I see.
I think I got to mile 30 and my gut was just churning, and I remember DNFing. I think it was my first DNF, and I was really, really upset about it. But I did DNF.
Yeah. It's funny how you think you have these things dialed in.
Oh yeah.
And then you'll think everything's solid, and then all of a sudden you have this new variable of stomach issues.
Yeah. No, I had
You
a
know?
lot to learn. And I feel like only in the last few years have I really kind of started to figure out the nutrition stuff. Honestly, I just feel
Really?
like the advances, and I know cycling has known this for a long time, but just the amount of food and carbs you need to eat when you're doing these things has, I think, the science for running has really increased. But it's really hard to run and eat 100 plus carbs an hour. It's hard,
Yeah.
like, because it's just like, I think cycling is, you're more stationary, right? So the tour guys have been doing that for a long time. This has been their regimen, and they're cranking out super high watts for hours and hours, which is super impressive. But the running, when you try to do that, you just have to find the right thing that works for you. You have to work with it a lot. So today, I think I was able to take in like 60 an hour.
Carbs.
But it was just finding the right stuff. So because it just, I think at the Mohegan Monster and also at Black Canyon a few years ago, my stomach just like couldn't handle it and couldn't keep anything down. So that's come a long ways for me personally, is nutrition.
Yeah. I think Tailwind just came out with a new or a high carb fuel.
Okay.
That's like what's the trend is, right?
Is
Like
it? Yeah,
90 grams. If
for
you can
sure.
train your stomach to do 90 grams of carb
Yeah,
an
but
hour.
you gotta train it.
Dude, it is so hard.
It is hard.
Like I'm finding I'm doing better on bikepacking, like multi-day stuff, if I kind of trickle throughout the day and then sit down for like an hour and just eat as many calories and carbs as possible.
Yep.
And then I'm reset for another, day. But these are like 3-day events. I think, I've done a couple of like 24-hour things, and it's just I just get nauseous every time.
Yeah. Yeah.
So what did you find that worked? What kind of nutrition are you using?
Yep. I started on Precision. They're, I think, a company out of the UK, and they're probably been in the States for 2+ years.
Mm-hmm.
And it works really well. I just couldn't keep eating it because the texture.
Yeah.
So I love Morton.
Mm-hmm.
It's expensive stuff. And CIS, this Science and Sports. Those two things, my gut handles. So, when I'm just training, like I think I've just been using this CIS, and I usually have a decent meal before a big training bout. And that really helps me. Like, I know some people will just get up and go, and I do that for most of my weekday training, but weekends I have a little more, and then I will have just it's usually just the CIS or the Morton stuff has been great for me and worked, and my stomach can handle it. Precision worked really well. And they have really big 90-gram things. Those are awesome because you're like, oh, this is simple. I just take one an hour, and I've done those in races. But man, I can get like 2 or 3 hours in, and after that, I'm just like, I can't do this anymore.
Yeah.
So obviously, there's that balance of just like liking it and wanting, or not, maybe not craving it, but at least being able to tolerate it.
Right.
So I think for these, thinking about UTMB, I think it's got to be real food too. And there's no doubt about it. So I won't be able to won't be interested in doing just gels or liquids or whatever. Like, that's going to be something I'll work into training. And yeah.
Yeah. Morton's seems to be, everyone I've talked to say that you can put it away for days. You can keep, the something about the consistency of like the gel. It's just easier to go down.
It is.
And
it is.
It's like
it's more neutral too.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
That's what I've heard. I've never actually tried it. It's just a little bit out of my budget.
It's expensive. Whenever I see it on sale, I'll buy it. I'm like, I use it sparingly in training because I was like, I'm just out for a training run. But if as I get closer to an event, I'll start using it, and then I'll buy it for the event, something like that.
Right.
Yeah.
So back to some races. It looks like you have an affinity for a few races in Italy. You've done a few. The Montesoro al Mare, 47K in 2018.
I was in the Cinque Terre. The
Okay.
Shaka Trail.
Okay.
It was in Monte Rosso. Is that
Oh
right?
yeah, sorry, Monte
Yeah.
Rosso.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. That well.
Okay.
So, well, I have been going to Italy the last few years, and I'm going. I think we're going in June to. I'm going to do 100K as a kind of last as a build up for UTMB. But
Yeah.
I mean, I love Italy, not
Yeah.
just for the food and not just for the inspiration, but and they have amazing mountains and terrain but that one, the Cinque Terre, it's the five lands. It's like right on the Mediterranean coast. So it's these little 5 towns. You've probably seen pictures of it. It's all these pastel colors. Some of the best seafood I've ever had in my life. And in 2017, I was there with Tommy Rivs on a little vacation. We were there for a week, and there's these 5 towns, and there's trails linking them. And so that's like the thing. You go there and you hike in between the trails, and most people just hike along the coast, and so it's like a pretty, easy hike. But there's trails everywhere. And there's a 2,000-foot ridge behind all the 5 towns. And so that 50K, you start on the far northwest town, northern town, Monte Rosso, and you go up the ridge, and then you come back down on the south town of Manarola, and then you run through all the 5 towns back to Monte Rosso. So
Okay.
it's awesome.
So cool.
It's so cool. I was there. I did the race with a bunch of other Americans, actually, and they were the race organizers. One's an expat, so she spoke English, and her and her husband's goal is to get people to understand that. So most people go to Cinque Terre for the beautiful towns and the tourism, which is totally fine. But people don't realize what they're missing, which is all the hiking and all the trails.
Yeah.
So their goal, and the other thing that's the issue they were having, is that people would come, or tour buses would organize, and they'd drive into towns with, 60 people on their bus, but they wouldn't spend any money there. They wouldn't spend any time there. But it was actually pretty hard on the town, like for the roads and everything, for these buses to come in, but like literally the buses would just like pack their own lunches. So like there was not a lot there wasn't a lot of good tourism there. And so they're like, forget the towns. Why don't we try to push tourism towards the activities of the area?
Your affinity for Italy.
Yeah.
When did it first start? Was there a moment?
Well, yeah, and it would have been 2005 when I went there. So I had a conference in Iceland, actually, when I was a grad student at NAU, and it was like $100 to go to Europe, and I had never been to Europe. So I took my bike, and I was like, I'm just gonna bike around Italy.
Yeah.
It's like it was May, so I didn't have any classes. I was like, let's go. And I got there. I was like, this is so awesome. One, I loved endurance sports at that time, but so it wasn't not those. But bike touring, I'd never been bike touring. First bike tour, I had this aluminum frame, crazy, like it actually held up. Road bike, and biked and got to enjoy Italian food and bike all day. Ever since then, yeah, that was the whole inspiration to build an oven just as a hobby, and then of course the restaurant. But I love Italian culture and I think I'm hoping that Sosta really can embody that, like that attitude of appreciating slowing down, even though it's a bit ironic that I'm the guy who wants to do this, because I have a hard time slowing down, but like just taking a moment of pause and enjoying the sweeter things in life, great espresso, gelato, just like the so for me, vacation and travel is always a mix of activity and rest. And I often say like I need to drain my batteries to recharge.
Mm-hmm.
So I find that Italy, I have done this and I don't regret it, but I won't do it again, which is like jet setting around Italy, because you want to see all the places. And I was with my partner at the time, and she wanted to, so we went to all these places, went to like 6 different places, and it was like never again. Because if you go to one place, and usually it's a beautiful place and they have good food and activity, and you just get to soak that up. So my trips to Italy now are like 2 weeks, 1, maybe 2 locations, and it's just enjoying great food, enjoying being outside, and so the Alps are amazing mountains, tons of trails and tons of activities. So I've been going there most recently, including like Chamonix. So the last 2 years I've been cooking in Chamonix for some athletes. So during UTMB. So that's been cool to be there. Obviously it's in France, but in Italy too, in that area, the whole area. And it's been a fun new segment of work, which is cooking for athletes. I've been doing it now for, I guess, like 3 or 4 years, but now I think I've got this standing gig with craft, which has been really good.
Yeah.
It's been fun.
Oh, yeah.
It's awesome.
Yeah. Nice.
Yeah.
All right. Cool. Well, let's wrap up.
Sure.
We got to get you out of here, get you back to finishing your restaurant.
Yeah.
By the time this comes out, you'll be very close to opening or open.
Yep.
So just thank you so much for your time today.
Absolutely. Yeah.
Pizzicletta.com, IndianGardens.com. So
Yep.
people that aren't local, I know you're coming to Sedona. So if you come to Sedona, it's right up Oak Creek Canyon.
Yeah.
Amazing patio, great coffee, great pastries.
Great trails up there too. Like, I mean, you can't bike them, but Oak Creek, like no one's on the trails. It's awesome.
Yeah.
I mean, it's steep because you're in a canyon. You're starting at the bottom, but I love all the Oak Creek Canyon trails, and they're nice and they're quiet, and that's not true of all Sedona trails as we know.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Totally.
Uh-huh.
And go check out the new restaurant.
Yeah.
If you're in Flagstaff. So
Awesome.
thanks, Caleb.
Of course. Thank
and
you.
Good luck on UTMB.
Yeah, I appreciate that.
And cheers.
Cheers.
I wanted to let you know a few different ways that you can support this podcast. Of course, you can like, subscribe, and share with your friends. Tell other people about it. Tell your friends and family. If you think these conversations I'm having are valuable as I think they are, share it. Send it out. Ask them to subscribe. That would be amazing. That's a free way that you can support. Another way you can support is by financially support is by becoming a member on YouTube. Those links are always in the description of all the videos. And YouTube members do get some extra perks like member shoutouts during the podcast, priority reply to comments, and best of all, you get early access to new videos that I'm releasing. You can also, if you don't want to sign up for a recurring membership, you can also show me your support by sending a one-time gift using what YouTube calls the Super Thanks feature. So when you're watching a video, down at the bottom, there's the little buttons, the thumbs up, thumbs down button. And right next to that, there is a heart with a little $sign in the middle, and it says thanks next to it. That is the Super Thanks button. So if you click that, it'll allow you to give a one-time gift, financial gift of your choice. And it's just incredible. Like seeing the support that I've gotten so far from both members and from Super Thanks is just amazing, and it is definitely allowing me to keep this thing rolling down the tracks. So thank you to everyone who has already supported the podcast, and I can't thank you enough. Thank you.